Anthony?
Mark!
Anthony.
Mark, are you coming to the office to discuss Footballland?
We discussed Footballland yesterday.
Right, we've got to discuss it every day, Mark. We've got $1 billion to spend on a theme park and we've only designed 3 rides. So I'm going to say to you now, get here right now.
Yeah, any chance we could do every other day?
Do you want to go to prison? Shall I take away your pen?
God, no, don't. I love that pen. Don't take away my pen.
Okay, well, I'll see you down here in 5 minutes. Bye! Such a lovely pen.
Doors closing. Lift going down.
Right, it's day 2. Just a reminder, if you've forgotten why we're here, you haven't forgotten why we're here, have you?
No, I do remember what we're doing.
So we've been given $1 billion due to a clerical error in order to build a football-themed theme park in Qatar in time for the World Cup. And as we've agreed, the theme park is called Footballland.
2 words.
Well, we've agreed that it's one word with a imperceptible pause in between football and land, size 1 font. So it's one word, but it's also it's 2 words as well. How do we feel about our progress so far? I've written in my notes, check in on our feelings.
Yeah, I'm still quite nervous about the legal side of this, whether we should come clean. $1 billion is a lot of money and I'm nervous about that. But on the plus side, I am really excited to start a whole new venture.
It's a daunting prospect. I had a look this morning at Alton Towers' Wikipedia page. They've got over 40 rides and over 10 restaurants. It is rather a lot, some might say excessive. So we've really got to get our skates on. We've only got 3 rides so far. Do you need me to recap on the 3 rides we've voted in so far?
Yep, go on.
OK, here are the rides we've voted on so far. The Leicester City Fairyland, The Tunnel of Donald or Wagner or Joachim Love, Jimmy Conrad's Conrad Biscan 3000. You excitedly WhatsApped me this morning saying that you've designed a theme tune to Footballland. I'm actually quite confused as to why a theme park needs a theme tune.
A big part of my thinking is that football fans love chanting, they love singing. We need to have a kind of musical identity. But I'm envisaging every time a customer walks through the turnstiles, I think as people file in, it just plays on an endless loop.
Right.
Shall I play the first one?
Go ahead, you play it.
All right, here it comes. Footballland, 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 Footballland.
Sorry, it cut out then, or is that's the end? Is it?
That's the end, yeah.
Okay. Is that you singing on the actual track itself? Is that the final version, or is that going to be somebody else singing, or is that it? Is that you singing?
Well, it's up for grabs, but I think I made a good fist of that.
Okay, I've just written a couple of notes. One. Yeah. I've written catchy.
Yeah, it's definitely that.
I love the repetition of football. I think that's really important.
I thought so too. I wanted to drum it into people in case they thought they were going into a general sports park. They're in no doubt when they hear that. This is football-centred.
I've written upbeat.
Yep.
I've written fun.
Yep.
And I've written catchy again. I didn't realise I'd already written it at the start, but I put catchy in inverted commas the first time, and then for some reason the second time I just wrote catchy without the inverted commas. But I guess it just shows how catchy it is that I've written catchy twice. Okay, let's listen to version 2.
Okay, here's version 2. This is a bit more experimental. Okay, that's number 2.
Just a couple of things written down about that. Number 1, and I think this is the main point I've got, is I've just written not sure about the grunts.
Oh. I think we need a nod towards this being in another country. I wanted to suggest a sense of we're in another land now. They don't sing like English fans sing. They have a whole different way of speaking and expressing themselves, and I wanted to reflect that in a positive way, and I think I've done that.
I've written, and this might back up your point, I've written very Eurovision-y.
Yeah, I'd say Middle Eastern visionary.
You sing Football Yand more than Footballland. Was that deliberate, and will it be unclear to visitors whether it is Footballland or Footballland, as we have agreed it is called Footballland?
I don't know what Footballland is. That's not deliberate, if that's what you're hearing.
You have sung that. You've sung Footballland.
But why would anyone think they're in Footballland when I don't think anyone would know what that is?
And this is precisely my point. This is why it will be unclear. If even you are saying that it's completely Footballland and not Footballland, and yet in this song you sing about a Footballland.
I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but do you seriously think someone's going to go through the turnstiles excited to be in Footballland, and they suddenly hear that and think, oh, we're in the wrong place, we're in Footballland, we've got to go back through the turnstiles and go somewhere else because we're clearly in the wrong place? That's not going to happen, mate.
Well, I'm convinced. Let's hear version 3.
Football, 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 football. Land. I went for a barbershop kind of harmony. I think it probably needs auto-tuning, but apart from that, you get the rough idea.
I think that if you did auto-tune it, why not experiment with going a few levels higher in pitch? It could sound like a children's choir.
Okay. And that would be a good thing?
Children love football and children really like going to theme parks. I think that I'm not sure whether there's much market in a baritone such as yourself singing about football. I mean, you look at Disneyland and you don't often in the songs that play around the parks or even in the films that they make, you don't often hear a baritone voice such as yourself singing the main theme songs.
I would say there's a lot of baritone in the songs of Disney, and who's to say if The Little Mermaid sounded a bit like me, it wouldn't be a better film.
But you don't often hear children singing in baritone voices.
Well, I beg to differ. There's a really big kid lives next door to me. You hear him singing, you think it's his dad. Well, shall I put the pitch up and play it again?
Go ahead.
All right, okay, here we go.
Yeah, that's much better for me. What about you?
I stand corrected. I think that sounds really nice. I think it sounds angelic.
That said, I think there's some substantial flaws in the actual version, regardless of how you play with the pitch. And that is, I'm going to lay my cards on the table here. I'm beginning to have suspicions that you're trying to make Footballland into 2 words when we agreed it's 1, albeit with a size 1 gap between football and land. That space is imperceptible, but the gap in your singing is way more than a size 1 font.
Okay, well, I've seen your cards on the table and I'm getting are we playing with 2 packs here? Because I'm laying my cards on the table saying that is exactly what I'm doing. It's definitely 2 words and this makes it very clear.
Version 4. Can we listen to version 4?
This is it tells a story. All right, here it comes. 2 lonely travellers in the Qatari desert. One of them has an email in his inbox that gives him $1 billion. What's that shimmering in the heat haze? Is it a football theme park? I think it is. Hey, let's go check it out. What is this place? It's amazing. Is it Footballland? Yeah, it's Footballland. Definitely 2 words. So that's more of a kind of Genesis Odyssey.
Okay, are you ready for my feedback here?
Yeah.
I've written, it tells the story incredibly well and only in 39 seconds. The narrative timeline is, I have to say, a bit confused. We're in the desert, and then we get an email in our inbox, and then we see the football theme park, which we haven't yet built. Are you saying that it's a mirage on the horizon, the theme park?
Yeah, I think don't approach my musical expressions in a linear, literal way. Don't be too literal about this.
Is that what you would say to visitors to the park who have questions about the origin?
Well, I should imagine I'm going to be busy elsewhere doing slightly more important things, but I'm more than happy to employ someone to explain the aural journey that I'm taking them on as they come in. If there's any doubt, I think, get a young actor type that might want to do that. I think they bite your hand off to explain my musical stuff to visitors.
At the entrance to the park itself?
Well, if that's where it's playing, then yeah, I think at the point of potential confusion, they can be interpreters. And I wouldn't want them to just say, right, it means this. Like if a family are coming through and they look a bit confused as to what they've just heard, then the interpreter should sit them down, take them to one side. Maybe we have a tent with soft cushion areas, and they just run a quick workshop as to what the possible interpretations of what they've just heard could be.
Could you please play back 34 seconds till the end?
Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's Footballland. Definitely 2 words. Yeah, I thought that might be controversial.
It feels, and this is just me, an outsider looking into your song, but it feels as if you're actually, as the author of the song, as the composer, as the actual penman, that you're beginning to push your 2 words theory quite explicitly there. And my simple question to you with that is, are you being deliberately antagonistic?
No, and going forward, if I'm going to do more of this, then I don't want them to be called songs. I want them to be called journeys.
Okay, let's have a vote on the 4 songs. After 3, all those in favour of every song say aye. 1, 2, 3, aye. On to the new rides for the park today. Here is my idea. It's quite simply Steve Mechanical Bull. It's a bucking bronco bull ride like you get in fairgrounds, you know, when you have to sit on the bull and it starts moving around and you're hanging on for dear life until you fall off. However, it's not a bull, it's actually a life-sized photorealistic 3D printed model of Steve Bull. Imagine it, Madame Tussauds, a waxwork of him, and it's 100% accurate, but with a fleshy, bony structure. So it does actually feel as if you're riding the former Wolves and England striker, and he's trying to get you off him to the best of his ability. The ride, it takes place in a miniature foam Molineux stadium, so it feels authentic to the Wolves brand and to the Steve Bull ethic. He's competitive, he's trying to get you off him, but if you stay on him for more than 15 seconds, remember how aggressive he was as a player, how blooming bloody-minded he was, so you're not going to stay on for terribly long. But if you do manage to stay on for 15 seconds or longer, you win a prize, you win a signed photo of Chris Iwelumo. So that's Steve Mechanical Bull, and
okay,
I think, I don't know, for you as a ride engineer, you probably already have the mechanics, as it's a ride that already exists. You just have to replace the bull with Steve Bull. Yeah,
that's where I was going, because I am, as you know, nervous about building these rides. So that leads, I mean, it's good. I really like it. If we're replacing like an existing bull ride with Steve Bull, does that mean Steve Bull is going to be on all 4s? Or is the person taking him on, are you perched on his shoulders?
It'd be really interesting to see, in a physiological sense, what is the hardest way to stay on a person. So, for example, on all 4s, I can imagine you can get quite a leverage. You can wrap your arms around his neck.
Yeah.
And also, in a realistic sense, in what everyday life situation would you be trying to cling on to Steve Bull for dear life? And I think it would be him stood up and you wrapping your... I don't know if you ever remember Gladiators, but when Jet from Gladiators used to get her contestants off the rings in hang time, they used to be prone, sort of hanging on for dear life in a stood-up position, albeit hanging, and she used to wrap her legs and her whole arms around their entire body.
Yeah. Well, the difficulty I'm having then is if you imagine an existing mechanical bull and you want Steve Bull to be standing up, he's going to be really short then, because those bulls are longer than they are tall. So I'm thinking if he's on all 4s, that's really easy for me to design. And I know that's not the overall consideration. We've got to make the ride the best it can possibly be. But if you want him standing up, he's going to be really little. I worry that will undermine the impact a little bit. If you go through thinking I'm going to take on Steve Bull and you see him and he's 2 foot high, you think, well, it would be easier if he was on all 4s. I mean, the other question that comes to mind, and maybe this isn't important, why is he so keen to get you off him? In the narrative of the ride, and I think we need to think along these lines, why is Steve Bull so anti being ridden?
Well, surely he would be anti being ridden. He's got a stranger riding him. I'm sure if you went up to, because I know he's an ambassador at Molineux these days in his capacity in public relations at Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think he's all for signing autographs. He's all for doing interviews with the press. He does tours of the stadium. He's generally a sound guy.
Yeah.
However, if one of the tour members, the visitors to the club, even if they were a season ticket holder, I don't think that he would let them ride him without serious repercussions. Possibly he is on all fours. Maybe he's tripped up, looking for a season ticket that you've dropped on the ground, and that's when you take your opportunity to ride him. So yes, in that situation, maybe he would want to get you off him in the quickest way possible, which is literally a whole body convulsion.
Yeah. So is Steve Bull clothed or is he naked?
Sorry, you're asking whether Steve Bull would be all clothed, or why would he be naked for this?
Well, I don't know. There's something about him being on all fours and you being asked to like mount him. I'm not suggesting we make this in any way sexual, but is there something more pure about having a naked Steve Bull on all fours?
You're correct. I think there is something very ancient Greek about it. There's something very classical.
Yeah.
Another consideration would be, how easy is it to hang on to a clothed Steve Bull? It's probably a lot easier than you think, because you can grab onto his shirt.
Yeah.
I remember the shirts he wore in the mid-90s, they're actually quite baggy. If he was naked and greased up, that would be harder to stay on, I agree.
Yeah.
But then you've got to ask yourself, in the narrative of the situation, why is Steve Bull giving a stadium tour naked and greased up? So it really is swings and roundabouts as to the aesthetics.
Is Steve Bull on board with this, by the way? Have you run this by him?
No, that's actually why we're going with a signed photo of Chris Iwelumo.
Well, I did wonder. I mean, it makes more sense to give a signed photo of Steve Bull, obviously, but is Chris Iwelumo the right choice?
He only played 46 games for Wolves, but arguably he's no less of a legend at the club. So I believe that Chris Iwelumo's signed poster is quite an enticing opportunity for fans across the world, because he also played for Scotland.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely bonus. I think wrestling a naked and greased up Steve Bull is incitement enough for most Wolves fans, but it's a great added touch.
All right, then, let's vote on the ride. The Steve Mechanical Bull. All those in favour say aye. 1, 2, 3, aye.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. So the ride I've come up with for this week,
I'm going to actually stop you there, Mark, if you don't mind. I've enlisted an outside pitch.
Oh.
And he's actually waiting to speak to us now. So why don't we get this one out the way, and then we'll hear from yours afterwards.
Oh,
because this guy's fairly important. He's a comedian, and his YouTube channel, Big Potato Productions, is worth checking out. He also has an extensive range of TV credits for comedy. Shall I read them out?
Well, it sounds like he can't be kept waiting any longer.
Yeah, it would be unwise to. So we'll park that. And here he is now. Hello, Marek.
Hello there. Hello, gentlemen.
Is it going to be confusing because you're called Marek and you're called Mark?
No, they're different names, Anthony.
Right. I think we've got the small talk out the way. Do you need any small talk? Are you comfortable?
I really dislike small talk, and I'm really set on my idea, and I just like to concentrate on that. And I don't want to talk. I mean, I find it a bit unnecessary, really.
That said, I think Mark is uncomfortable not having small talk. So can we just find a bit of a middle? Can we just have one question of small talk and then we'll move forward?
We'll give it a try.
Okay, Mark.
Just wondered if are you crisps or biscuits? What do you prefer?
Okay, so what's the answer, Marek?
It would be crisps up until about sort of 6 o'clock, and then I would go into biscuit mode in the evenings.
Okay, should we continue? Should we carry on now?
I'm ready.
Okay. Marek, before we begin, we'd just like you to verbally sign a waiver. You, Marek Larwood, are handing over full ownership of your ride idea to Anthony and Mark in its permanent place in Footballland, and you're swearing on a copy of Shoot magazine from 1999. Just to prove you have a copy, could you just tell us which footballer is on the front cover, please?
Darren Eadie.
Thank you. Who was he playing for at the time, though? Was that in his Norwich days?
Yeah, I'm a Norwich City fan, yes, it was just before we went to Leicester.
Can I ask you about the first ground you played in, which was a giant quarry? Do you have any sort of cultural memories of that? I know you weren't alive at the time, but it just seems quite a weird place to have played football, in a giant quarry where people were perched on the top of the cliffside to watch the game.
It was perfect, really. In fact, the quarries came before the Roman amphitheatres. So the Romans saw the very early quarries and thought, oh, right, we can use this for sport on a Saturday and Sunday. We just shift a couple of rocks out of the way. The experience was very dusty, but in that way, it sort of the dust helped you sort of become a different player, really, because you'd think about passing more without moving. A lot of it was standing still. Not dissimilar to sort of when you see the blind football at the Olympics. Because there was so much dust, you just had a lot of the players did just stand still, and they would just hold bells, or they would have small birds or canaries or something like that to make the sounds.
And that's why they're called the Canaries.
Yes, exactly.
Would Darren Eadie have thrived in that situation, or would he have preferred Carrow Road as it is now?
He was best in the dust when he couldn't be seen. He was quite a small player, so he was very good at being, when in the quarry, when the dust really kicked up, you could barely see him sort of sprinting down the wing or even standing still down the wing. And a lot of people haven't heard this before. A lot of people assumed they were formed in the sort of late 19th century. That's a lie. And the reason they had the yellow shirts is so they could be seen in the dust of the quarry.
Wouldn't the dust even coat the yellow? Wouldn't it be better to have, say, a reddy colour? Because even if it goes brown, it looks quite bright.
Have you ever seen a canary covered in dust?
A couple of times.
How would you know it was a canary?
I just assumed it was because I was told. My uncle used to keep them in his loft.
Right, OK. Well, and it was as dusty, his loft.
Tell me a loft that isn't dusty.
A lot of them these days, if they're insulated properly, they aren't dusty. I dispute the fact that they were canaries in the first place. I think he'd probably been sold some knockoff birds. They were covered in dust. You couldn't even tell what they were. They're probably, I would say, small pigeons.
Marek, what is your idea? Is it to do with Norwich City?
No, it's not to do with that at all. What I've done is, with theme park rides, a lot of them are based on films and current franchises. And I looked at, for example, Peppa Pig World used to be Paulton's Park and a really average sort of rides there. They called it Peppa Pig World.
Was it pig themed when it was Paulton's World?
There were no pigs. I don't know. I hadn't been there. Or what my brother told me, he went to Paulton's Park and it was changed to Peppa Pig World, and it was 3 times as expensive. And you could go to the old version, and there's another sort of park where they had the old rides, exactly the same rides, but without the pigs, a lot cheaper. Who'd have thought? So I am using this business model, I'm applying it to my idea. So I'm taking the film franchise, The Hunger Games, and I'm making that into a ride in the theme park. Hunger Games with football players as the competitors.
Okay.
Are we talking hard men or are we talking everyday footballers?
Hard men. I think it has to be as terrifying as possible. I don't know if you've seen the Hunger Games. I saw it once about 10 years ago. What happens is you all stand in a circle, you put all the weapons in the middle, and you have to run and pick a weapon. These can be football related, and then you have to kill each other. It takes a lot to want to kill another football player. People say a lot of football players are coming soft and they start falling over immediately or rolling around before they even pick their weapon. So you need, ideally, retired ex-hard men players who have had history of maybe drug and drink problems, and they've lost all their money through bad investments. So they'll do anything to make money. And also, it's just ingrained in their personality, the need to kill other people.
Could you name us some examples of players? At the top of my head, I've got Roy Keane.
Roy Keane would be your number one. So you're looking at Roy Keane, Vinnie Jones, Stuart Pearce, Duncan Ferguson, maybe older players, Graham Souness, you've got.
Igor Biscan.
Could we sprinkle it with some international hard men? For example, Pepe, Sergio Ramos, Gattuso, Paolo Di Canio, Thomas Gravesen?
I don't rate Paolo Di Canio as a hard man, but the rest of them I do.
He absolutely decked that referee. I mean, that was a vicious attack.
You're right, actually. You're right. So maybe we could have, because I think of him as a skill player, like Cantona, I suppose. He's another one you could put in there as a hard man, but because their skills are, I think Di Canio is known for his skill primarily.
I don't know if you remember the Cantona Kung Fu kick. Not many people do, but he kicked a supporter in the face. That's quite hard.
Mm.
Yeah, but I'd say you remember his goals and his collar. I'd say his goals 1, collar 2, kicking that Palace fan in the face 3.
Would you not argue that anyone can be hard in possession of a weapon? A lot of these players were hard on the field, But you give someone like, as you said before, Darren Eady, give him a grenade, he'll happily throw it.
Yeah, I think you could mix it up a bit. I mean, obviously, what the problem, well, it's not really a problem with this game, is gradually players will get killed off. So you'll need sort of a fresh batch of players. So you'll be going to your second tier of sort of less hard players, pretty sharpish, and then eventually the sort of softer retired players, sort of like with Lineker, will be your last resort, I suppose.
So if you leave it too long to go to this park, you'll be watching like Graham Lasseau.
It'll be like, Graham Lasseau, Jan Molby, Matt Le Tissier, just sort of all the sort of softer players walking around quite slowly. So you want to get to you want to be at the premiere of this, or you could just have events with highlight. But presumably, if you get Roy Keane signed up, which I'm sure he will, because I think he's probably looking for an excuse to kill someone, judging by the way his sort of stare, he's going to win every time. So the downside is that you will be killed playing this game, but Roy Keane will probably he'll be in the game for in perpetuity.
Is there a state where, like in the Sphere in the Colosseum, where if you killed 100 people, you would be freed?
No. I think it's nice, but economically it's not really worth it. Because you've got to pay retirement fees for these people. You've got a pension.
And also, once you've allowed them to normalise the act of killing, do you really want them wandering around the park willy-nilly in non-safe areas?
No, you do not.
Going into Posh and Bex's nail parlour and just running amok because they think that's what's required of them is not going to be good for business.
Can I ask a question in terms of the theme park guests, the actual goers to the theme park? Is this in a giant dome and they're all watching around the side? Can you follow it on your phones, just watching it on television as you go around the park?
Well, can you take part? Can you be one of the contenders?
Yes, of course. I mean, people pay. It's a bit like going into space, but better. So you would be attracting multi-billionaires, it's for alpha males mainly, for alpha male psychopaths. So you're doing a social responsibility, you're getting the psychopaths off the streets and into the big dome. The idea is it's a big dome where you can, with like an amphitheatre, like the old Quarry where Norwich City played, you'd have people watching as the players run towards their weapons and they disappear into tunnels, and underneath the whole theme park you've built a beautiful sort of, a bit like the Crystal Maze, different zones of areas, like a desert zone, a countryside zone, ice zone, but smaller villages. It sounds quite expensive, but the people who pay to play this game, you're talking about the Elon Musks, you're talking about people like David Beckham, the multi-billionaires.
Sir Alan Sugar.
Alan Sugar, Bill Gates. They're going to see this and they're going to think, I want to be number one, and sign up. And another source of revenue is the weapons in the middle. You get sponsored by Nike, you get Reebok, Adidas, so you've got like Nike boots with blades in them.
Gola?
Oh yeah, Gola would be good. Gola exploding footballs. They'll make their own, and they can sell on these brands to children to play with at home. So that is a huge source of revenue. And not only would you be creating these new weapons with major brands, but also the betting would be a huge part of it. If you'd have the only source of the media, so you'd have the media streams, you've got the betting, you've got the and also clothing as well.
They're not in football strips. They're not like militarised football strips.
That would be the perfect thing. They would have different colours of their old sides on there, but with different sponsors. You see, sponsor the shirts as well.
Would this allow for someone like Igor Biscan, say, who wouldn't be expected to do well? What if he went underground into the jungle zone and just hid until everyone else wiped everyone else out, and then just popped a single shot in the second man standing? Would that be a satisfying conclusion, or do we need to prevent that from happening?
Well, this Hunger Games was ripped off from the Running Man. I don't know if you've seen that. And there's a very good idea at the start of the Running Man where they've all got neck sort of braces. And if they break the rules or go and hide for too long, these explode, immediately decapitating the player. And I think everyone would agree that's pretty fair.
I remember Victoria Beckham brought out a range of jewellery, and I think necklaces were among those. Keeping with the football theme, we could have some exploding Victoria Beckham endorsed jewellery.
That'd be great as well, because the thing with jewellery, the problem with the jewellery market is it lasts forever. So ideally, you want jewellery that explodes within 3 to 4 weeks. So you could get the consumers to buy more products.
Not if they've been decapitated by that jewellery. That's a slight flaw of the business plan.
Well, if they buy them as gifts for other people.
The Hunger Games, the film, it's kind of a teen classic, isn't it? It's in the actual film itself, they were children, weren't they, between about 12 and 18 years old. How are we going to attract the preteen and the teen market to this ride? Because it's going to be a tough endorsement if there isn't that link in demographics.
Just get everyone to shave all the bodily hair, wax it all down. All body hair's gone, so they look a lot more youthful. So they've got no, other than their haircuts, a lot of footballers these days do shave their body, so it is normal. So I don't think once they were hairless, you'd be able to tell the difference between a 16-year-old and a 60-year-old.
Roy Keane is quite a hairy man. You're going to have to wax him daily.
Well, the beauty of this is, a lot of this is people will be consuming this through media streams. So some people are playing with it, but and you just put filters on it. You put that soft filter, so Roy Keane just looks whatever age you want.
Okay, well, that's wonderful. I think we're going to vote it in. 1, 2, 3, aye. That's unanimous. Congratulations, Marek. Your ride has been approved.
Brilliant. That is a relief. Thank you.
So that was Marek Larwood, and that's meeting 2 of Footballland complete. Do you want lunch?
Yep, just give me a few minutes. I'm going to try and get hold of Roy Keane's agent. Steve Bruce, Roy Keane.
Footballland.